Welcome to The Good Life. I'm Patrick Harney, and thank you very much for stopping by. This is episode 1, numero uno of 2021. And I got a great friend with me here today. He's an actor, he's a producer, he's a writer, he's a wrestler, he's also a personal trainer if you're trying to get shredded. And he's a good friend of mine. His name is Justin Main. I'm very excited to talk with him. I'm very excited to hear what he has to say about everything that we have to talk about. So let's dive in, shall we? All right, Justin, we are here, my brother.
Yeah.
How was your New Year's? Had a good New Year's?
Yeah, no, it was chill. Despite what many believe, actually probably nobody at all. I'm a very strong homebody. I don't like partying. I'm not a partier. I don't go out to drink. To me, a good night is staying inside with my girlfriend watching a movie.
Yeah.
To me, that's just a great night, and that's exactly what we did. And yeah, like I'd rather do that. I'd rather just have a more relaxed night. A lot of the rest of my life is crazy, so I'd rather not continue the crazy into a night that could eventually be like super crazy. Um, so yeah, it was very chill.
Nice, man. Yeah. This year was the first year in 4 years that I haven't had to work on New Year's Eve. So,
Wow.
so I was, me and my wife had a few of my friends over, and then we had my sister and my soon-to-be brother-in-law over just to kind of hang out and, have some food and just enjoy each other's company. But it was weird because like I didn't know what to do with myself. I was like, this is the first time I haven't had to work, the first time she hasn't had to work. It was strange, but it was good, and I'm excited. I'm optimistic for 2021. I don't know about you, but I'm hoping that it is much better than 2020.
I would say I'm definitely very optimistic over it. My thing is, I don't really think the coronavirus is going to be going away just 1 or 2 days into the year. So it's still going to be a continued issue, I think, going into 2021. But I do think people are going to get more confident and more comfortable with it being around, and businesses will start reopening and feel, I guess, better about running their businesses in spite of what's going on.
Yeah.
So I think overall 2021 is just going to be a better year for most people involved. For me, 2020 wasn't even that bad, honestly. Like, a
Hmm.
lot of great stuff happened in 2020, despite, I mean, obviously what was going on and a lot of the deaths and stuff like that. But, you know, I think if you know how to look at certain situations, you can find the positive and the good things in everything. Um, and for me, 2020 I don't think it was a terrible year.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think you're right. I mean, it's one of those things where there's always a silver lining in everything, right? And there were parts of 2020. I'll be honest. There was parts of 2020 that sucked, but I also was able to get married in 2020.
Which is a
I
great thing.
Yes, I was able to start working on a comedy series that I've been writing. I've been able to film a couple projects that we're able to push through. But
Yeah.
I do hope that things start clearing up, because I mean, Lord knows businesses need to get moving again, and people need to you know I I'm always for being cautious. It's just what's worries me is the level of fear that has been put in so many people, and
Right.
and that's the part that worries me. But overall, man, I think as long as people keep pushing and keep being cautious and just being smart and trying to be kind to one another, it's
Right.
then I think we'll be all right. But you're gonna have a big year coming up this year.
I hope.
Um,
Man,
so
I
y-
hope.
so you're involved in this like heavily involved in this project called Crow, and it's
Yes.
based off of it's a separate story, correct? And please correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a whole new story that's based off of the 1994 Brandon Lee film, The Crow, correct?
Right. So, okay. So the best way I explain this, and um, normally whenever somebody who is not associated or knows about the project hears about Crow, they're like, "Oh God, there's going to be a Crow remake." It's not a remake. It's very far from a remake, actually. I wouldn't even call it a reboot. It's more of a, I don't even want to call it a reimagination. To me, it's just a story in the mythology. The Crow, and if anybody knows kind of like how the Crow goes, it's basically two people, whether they're, man, wife, whether it's, father, son, it could be really any type of like strong connection. If they're unfairly killed or murdered, the Crow spirit brings one of them back from the dead to basically set the wrong things right. That's kind of the story within the mythology, just of the franchise. Doesn't matter what the connection is between the two people. It's just a strong love connection, right? So because of that, and knowing that, there's so many stories you can tell within this mythology that just haven't even been explored yet. The mythology itself in like the Crow franchise hasn't even been fully like understood yet. It's just been kind of like touched upon, and it's been brought up every so often in the comics and in the films, but it's more or less just stayed kind of very structured to where it's at. What we're doing with this film is creating a new story with new characters, but we're really exploring like the mythology, how certain things work within it. Why does this person get to be brought back? What happens when this person is brought back? What are the rules? Stuff like that. We're really exploring that into more detail with this film. So for Crow fans, it actually gives you, we think, a little bit more of a deep dive into how things kind of operate on each side of the coin. And for non-Crow fans, we really feel like we're presenting a great love story with elements of action, horror, drama, a little bit of comedy. Like, we're kind of touching upon different genres all in one particular film. And we think we have just a really fun roller coaster, engaging, cinematic film that we think a lot of people will enjoy.
So, okay. So how do you, if there's so much to work with, like you say, how do you narrow down the right story? How do you get the right story and go, boom, this is it. This is the one that we got to tell. How do you come to that?
So, like I said, there's so many different stories that you can tell, but it's a matter of what stands out, what hasn't been done before, really. And then B, where can we go with this story? How far can we take it? Can we stay within the lines of the actual mythology, or are we going to stretch ourselves way outside of it? What hasn't been told, what has been told. We didn't want to do a complete retreat of what's come before us. That's where, when people think we're doing a remake or a reboot, I definitively say we're not, because we're not even touching Eric Draven's story. We're not touching Alex Corvus's story or any of the other Crows that have been presented so far. There are elements in our film that are similar or familiar with Crow fans. If you've seen any of the other Crow films, or if you've read any of the comics, but we're not outright taking any stories. We're not outright taking any characters. We're creating our own thing. And we're just pushing the envelope in terms of what to expect within the mythology. One of our goals with the film, we have many goals with the film, is to really just kind of make people rethink the Crow franchise and what exactly you can do with it. And what, like, just for example, like, what are the Crow's powers? Like, what can they do? We've only seen a little bit of that, like Eric Draven, for example, can take shots. Like, he can get shot in like anywhere and survive it and reheal, right? So that's one of the powers. Apparently they can, Crows can make people see like memories, or they can see flashbacks and stuff like that. That's another one. Another one would be, I think it was Alex Corvus in The Crow Salvation. He could fly. There's elements of flying there. So we haven't fully understood what a Crow is capable of, and we really wanted to deep dive that and explore that with this film. However, we do ground it in realism. It isn't like a fantastical, like, we're going all the way to the underworld and shit like that. But
Yeah.
we like I said, it's kind of like a fine balance between the two. And with the story that we're telling, it's something that's been kind of sitting with me for the past 20 years. And then I brought Melinda Doan Bryce on to help me more or less elaborate upon it. And then we had Matt Zakel, the director, rewrite parts of the script to basically just explore some of the stuff that we really want to tell the story. So we truly think that this is something that's going to stand out amongst just the Crow mythology, like in terms of like the comics and the films, and we think it'll stand out with the general audience as well.
Well, and Matt is with Fel Peller Studios.
Right.
Yeah, and those dudes they've been crushing it. They came and
Yeah.
they're taking over, man. They're killing
Big
it.
big 2020, huh?
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, dude, I mean that's awesome. And the fact that, like you said, it's been sitting with you for so long, and the fact that you decided to be like, you know what, no, let's get to it. That's huge. That, like, and I'm not just saying that. That's really, really cool, because a lot of times people will say, oh, I got this idea, or this idea, and I think I want to get to it, but I don't know, and then nothing ever comes of it.
It never
But
materializes. Well, and
exactly.
that's especially interesting in the case of The Crow, because it's been so start and stop since The Crow Wicked Prayer back, I think back in like 2006.
Mm.
There's been rumors and even like legitimate talk about a Crow remake featuring Jason Momoa, Bradley Cooper, Luke Evans, Tom Hiddleston, um, being produced by Sony or by Miramax before they went under. Like, there's been so many different like things coming out there about a Crow remake happening or a Crow movie happening, and just everything for one reason or another just falls through. And that's where it's led to like almost like this cursed type of idea where the Crow franchise is cursed, and
Mm.
nothing ever good is going to come from it. And I call absolute bullshit on that. I
Yeah.
don't think it's cursed. I just don't think there's been a strong enough idea yet to bring forth. And we're hoping that, I mean, we're not insinuating that this is going to be the sequel to The Crow or anything like that. And this is going to basically do. We're not trying to make money off of this.
Hmm.
What we're trying to do is just pay tribute to the franchise, pay tribute to Brandon Lee. We're trying to just give the fans something to chew on until something, until like an actual film comes out. We want to give back to that franchise, but also we want to create a film that we really think people will love and really enjoy, and just show how talented the people involved are, and what we can do with a property like this, and just in general.
Yeah.
And that's been a huge goal for us in the making of this film.
Well, and it's always, you can always tell when projects are gonna flop out, or when they're gonna do really well, and I think it's all based on the intention that's behind it. If, like you just said, we're not trying to make money off this. So you're coming at, obviously it's a business, right? So obviously it'd be nice if you made some money off it, but
Right.
you're coming at it from a very genuine place, in an effort to kind of pay homage to the original and the franchise and the comics and the whole story of it. You're not looking at it like, oh, this would be a great money making opportunity, right?
Right.
Obviously, if that comes, that's a plus. But the fact that you're coming at it from um, such a genuine place, and such a kind of an innocent place, of just, you're a fan of it and you want to expand on it yourself. I mean, that's huge. That's awesome.
Right. I
Um,
mean, yeah, like I said, at no point there was any intention of making a buck off of this film. If we do make any type of profit, like we've had a lot of demand for like posters and DVDs and stuff like that, we're going to donate all of that to charity. I'm not
that's
taking a
awesome,
dime
dude.
for this. I funded this entire thing out of my pocket. There have been contributions from other cast and crew members in the film. But for the most part, it's been entirely self-funded by myself, just because it's a passion project. It's a love.
Yeah.
It's something that I've always wanted to do, and to me, it's kind of like the thank you to what's come before us. I do intend on presenting this to the copyright owners. I want to do this the right way. I don't want to just throw it out there and hope for the best.
Mhm.
I'd rather be professional, take this to them when it's finished, and be like, so we made a film. It's about the Crow. We know you own the rights to it. I want you to take a look at it, see what you think. Hopefully we can come to like some sort of agreement here. But I'm not selling the film. I'm not trying to make a profit off of it. I just want to make sure that they know that it's going to be out there, and
Yeah.
hopefully they see what we're kind of seeing with it. And we want to reignite interest in the franchise. We want to, if we can get this thing to go viral, that would be such an amazing gift, because I think the Crow franchise itself deserves that, number one. And number two, it really just showcases what I think is some of the most talented people in Michigan. Michigan to me is very underrated when it comes to filmmakers and actors. And it's not to say that everybody involved are like the best in Michigan. I'm not saying that. There's plenty of amazing talent in Michigan that weren't even involved in the film. But if we can shine a light on Michigan talent, because this whole film is 100% Michigan talent.
Mhm.
If we can shine a light on that, then we can bring more interest into Michigan for future projects. We can get more people work. We can get some eyes on us in Michigan. And I think that would be a really, really awesome achievement if we could do that.
Yeah, man, there is a lot of talent here. And it's always interesting to me because really, I mean, you can film any sort of landscape here in Michigan.
Right.
You have the big city with Detroit, right? You have farmland with the middle of the state. You have kind of your beach, ocean side type feel with Lake Michigan, because Lake Michigan's so big that it's, the camera, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. It looks like an
Right.
ocean. You have your forest and your woodsy areas, stuff up north. I mean, there's really so many possibilities to be able to film here.
You have your desert with the dunes. You have your post-apocalyptic setting right off of 94 by some of the old abandoned factories and buildings.
Exactly,
I mean,
exactly.
you got so many different like locations and sets all in one state, and not many other states can say that.
Yeah,
Certainly, like they would have to build a majority of those sets, but we already naturally have them there.
yeah,
So I think that's really important, and a lot of people overlook that
most
when it comes
definitely.
to filming in Michigan.
Yeah, and I really hope, because I heard, and I can't confirm this, but I heard that there was a proposal to get the tax incentives back here. However, I just hope that they do it right this time, because the the downfall of the tax incentives the last time was that there wasn't anything that stated like percentages of workers here.
Right,
So what would end up happening was Hollywood would bring their own crews, they'd bring their own cast, they'd bring all of their own people, and the only money that was being made here for the state was just like restaurants and hotels for the time being. There wasn't any work for, there wasn't a whole lot of
right,
work for and that's why Atlanta's doing so well, is because they took the same incentive program that we had, but they added the clause of, there has to be a certain percentage of Atlanta locals or Georgia locals that are on crew, on
right.
cast, all that stuff. And look how Atlanta's, booming.
It
So,
boomed. Yeah.
so I'm hoping we can do that here. But we'll see. Now you're also involved in another project that the second trailer just came out on, was it Christmas
Mhm.
Day or Christmas Eve,
Christmas Day.
for Jumanji Level 1.
Right,
So that project is it's based on the Jumanji story, right? However, it's kind of the prequel somewhat.
right,
So
right.
can you kind of talk about how you got involved in that?
So it was Bobby Lanen approached me. God, when did we film that? It was a couple of months ago before they started production on the project, and he approached me asking me if there was like if I was available for a role. It was one day at the time for Jumanji, and I thought it was a fan film at first, and I was like, you know what, anything for you, Bobby. I love Bobby Lanen. Bobby Lanen's my boy. I'll do anything for him. So I jumped onto the project, and I realized it was a much larger project than originally expected, which is just cool finding out a whole bunch of info about it. But I think the most important part to me was that it was just going for a good cause. It was, I mean, obviously we're doing a Jumanji thing, which is really cool, but um, the whole reason it came about was to help benefit the Anchor's Children's Hospice, and the fact that there's so many people involved in trying to make that happen was, I thought, really cool, and I wanted to just be a part of it, and I wanted to just be able to essentially help out the project as best as I could. And yeah, that was pretty much it. Wasn't like an audition and callback process. It was mostly just, Bobby just asking me if I was available, and
Yeah.
hell yeah.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, Bobby's a great guy, man. He's killing it right now too. He's
Oh
working,
yeah.
working, 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 and but he is. You're right. He's one of those guys that, like, if he calls you, I'm in. right?
You drop what you're doing and you jump in.
Exactly.
You have to.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, dude. That project looks sick though. Like the trailers and everything. Whew,
Dude, it was
blew
crazy.
my face off. It was so cool, man. I was getting hyped just watching it, and I was like, this is only a
I
trailer.
I remember just walking onto set like the first day that we filmed. It was my first time working with Lance Cowis too.
Mm.
And I've worked with Dylan before. I loved it. I love working with Dylan. He's a great guy to work with. So it was just nice being able
Dylan
to work
Sides,
with
right?
people. Yep, Dylan
Yep.
Sides.
Yep.
It was just a good experience being able to work with everybody that I was familiar with and whatnot. But just to see the level of detail that they're putting into the project, like the set that was built for the particular scene that I was in, it was just like this early 1900s Africa, like in the middle of Africa set, like with this tent set up, and it was just gorgeous. There's so much attention to detail. The boards that Dylan Sides produced were like identical to what you would see in like any of the major Jumanji films.
Yeah.
It was they really went all out. It was a very, very well done project. And um the funny thing is I think it's actually like fooling some people into thinking that it's an actual like another movie,
Yeah.
which is just amazing to me. And we've actually had a very similar response to the Crow teaser as well. Like we've had people like bitching and complaining about, oh, they're remaking the Crow, and the funny thing is they don't even realize it's a fan film. So
Yeah.
I love responses like that when you make something so high end, and just something that you put a lot of work into it, and you just a lot of detail, and it can really be on the same level, on the same par as major multi-million dollar studio productions. Like I think that's
Yeah.
super cool.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I mean it's and it's one of those things where like I think that's kind of where the film landscape has changed is you can do so much more with so much less in terms of money. I mean, like just example, Jumanji. I mean, the level of detail that was in that or that was on those sets, into the wardrobe, the props. I mean, everything was so detailed and so true to the original films and the story. And they didn't have this, $100 million budget or anything like that,
No.
and so when you can show up and say, yeah, this is what we were able to do with this, just that alone, not to mention the, helping with the children's hospice. I mean, it just all of it is truly, it's amazing. It's funny because I mean, as you know, I mean, making a film is very hard. It's very difficult. Um,
Oh yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
s- yeah, and so and especially because I mean, you guys were trying to make it, during COVID. I can't even imagine, like with
Crow was, I think,
um,
we, if I remember correctly, we were the first project back right after the quarantine was lifted.
yeah,
Like the very first one. So we had to, on set for that, we had to basically figure out how to run these protocols, and how to basically make these systems work, especially when you have 20 plus people on set, which is not a large set by huge project standards, but
yeah,
for an independent project, especially like one local to here, that's a pretty large set. So you have to figure out how you can organize all these things, how to make everything safe for everybody,
yeah,
how where you have your checks and your balances, because sometimes, I mean, we're all human, we're all people. We sometimes forget the fact that we have to stay 6 feet away from each other, or we can't hug or shake hands or anything like that.
yeah,
Especially like this is new. This isn't like we've been, doing COVID protocols for the past 10 years and it's just, common knowledge now.
yeah,
So to expect people to, really heavily stick towards these protocols when it's brand new to literally everyone. Um, Obviously, you want people to do that, but you got to also be flexible in terms of how you respond to it.
yeah,
Um, so it was definitely a very interesting learning experience, on Crow, just trying to figure that whole thing out. I think for the most part we were successful. There's things that we could have improved, but nobody tested positive on our set. Everybody felt safe. I mean, it was just a good working experience from the feedback that I had received from everybody on cast and crew, and my own personal experience too. So hopefully, like going forward, this just becomes an easier type of thing for every project. But
yeah.
I guess it really just depends on what exactly you're trying to get out of it.
Well, yeah, and also, I mean, it's in our nature to cling to each other. You know, it's in
Right.
our nature to be affectionate and all that stuff. So yeah, I mean, you're right. It can be very difficult to keep those things in mind. But hey, I mean, you got to do what you got to do to be able to work, and you know, you make it work, and you know, just from all of the murmurs and everything that I had heard about your guys' set, it was very much so that you guys basically were the gold standard of, you know, you guys set the tone in terms of what filming would be like here, you know, in the midst of all COVID stuff. And yeah, and
It's doable. The thing is, I think a lot of people think it's so dramatically hard, and I think they're almost making it too hard on themselves to film. While
mm,
yeah, you absolutely should take as many protocols as possible and as many safety precautions as you should, at the same time, don't you can't completely push everything away and shut everything down. You have to find a way to make things work.
yeah,
There's a fine balance between the two, and I can't tell you how much it sucks not being able to hug somebody or high five somebody after a great scene.
yeah.
That shot, it sucks, but at the same time, you're there to work and you're there to make a great movie, and I think you just got to find your limitations as to where you can do that. But you know I like I said, I think we'll figure things out better as time goes on, and we'll get more comfortable
Hmm.
as time goes on. I think just being on sets after Crow, the funny thing is every single set is kind of slightly different. I've been on commercial sets that were super lenient and didn't really care about protocols and precautions, and I felt safe. And then I've been on sets that were overly precautious and like just took the fun out of the whole experience,
Yeah.
and I didn't feel safe at all. So it's honestly a fine balance, and you got to figure out how to balance it with your
Yeah.
set.
And I mean, you know, everybody's learning, like you said, you know, everybody's trying to figure it out. And I think the biggest thing is as long as everybody is, you know, is considerate of that fact that
Right.
everybody's trying to learn it, then, you know, then I think you can make it work. But we were also able to work together
Yeah.
on Good Thief.
Finally.
I know.
Finally.
I know I'd been wanting to work with you for a couple years at this point, and then I
Likewise.
remember I got the call from Bobby, got the call from Bobby, and he calls me, he said, "Hey man, I've seen you play a cop before, and we need a cop. You want to play a cop?" I said, "Yeah, sure." And he goes, "All right, well, it's Lance's new film, and Ish is is the cinematographer for it, is the DP." And he said, it's a couple days, you'll have some lines, it's paid, and I said, all right. And he said, yeah, so there's two cops. I said, well, who's the other cop? And he goes, I think Justin Main's going to be the other cop. I got to call him still. I was like, oh, really? I said, well, then, yeah, I'm most definitely in. Like, sure. Um, and so, yeah, so it was great. We got to drive around and, dude, the car chase scene. Like, I know we can't talk a whole lot about it, but I just got to say the
Right.
car chase scene, the fact that we're driving and just the wheel on that car, the steering wheel.
Dude, you can't even, oh, fuck that steering wheel,
You were
man. What
so
that
like you were so like swelled up from the workout that you were having to do with that steering wheel, man.
I had a huge pump in my chest from how stiff that steering wheel
Yeah.
was. Fuck.
Dude, the power steering, man, I needed some help. But I'll tell you what,
Oh yeah.
I had a blast on that film.
So did
Um,
I. Thank you for bearing with me, by the way, on that.
oh, dude, man, I was there
I
for it.
appreciate your patience on that
Yeah, man, I was there
set.
for it. Well, and on that one take where I don't know how, but that car got through or the truck got through when we were peeling around the corner. Dude,
Uh,
I remember I remember when that was happening in my head, I was like, this is where it ends. This is where it
this is
ends.
it.
This is
This
it.
is
This
it.
is doing what I love. And I remember I looked over and you were just like, oh shit. Like it was a such super genuine, like what is happening. And yeah, man, I can't wait. But it made the shot look sick though. I remember
Oh yeah,
we
dude,
were
that
able to see the shot
shot.
afterward.
Oh, that was such a great shot. Without spoiling too much, I mean, I don't think it's really spoiling much at all. But we had this one take where I was peeling around a corner in a cop car, chasing a couple of bad characters, and we had the street closed off or at least we thought we did. For the most part, we had everything pretty situated. The cops were doing, a really good job on set. But on one of the takes, we don't know how, this big semi kind of pulled out of one of the complexes. And as I was peeling around the corner, and keep in mind, like, I'm going pretty fast around the corner, and I'm supposed to speed up to about 50 or 60 down the stretch of road. Mm-hmm. When I'm like peeling off around the corner and I'm kind of like drifting a little bit, we see this semi, and Patrick's off to, in the passenger seat. I'm in the driver's seat. Do we have Ishvan in the crew in the back too when this happened? Were they in the car when this happened or no?
I thought they were in the Gator.
Were they in the Gator?
Okay, actually, no. Yes, they were in the car. They were in the back seat. Yeah.
So not to add too much stress, but it wasn't just Patrick and I in the car. It was Ishvan, Matt Cisco, and
was it Ryan Grant also?
Was it Ryan Grant as well pulling focus? Yeah. So they're in the back seat, shooting from behind us and through the windshield. And I'm supposed to go up to like full speed here, like 50, 60 miles an hour for the scene. So I pull around the corner and I take the turn really, really wide, like super wide, like more than I was expecting.
Like almost hitting the curb on the other side.
Almost hitting the curb. Everything was controlled, but it was a really wide turn. It looked really good. And then all of a sudden I look forward and I see this huge semi like right in front of us. So as soon as I pull around the corner, I see the semi here. I'm like, oh shit. Pull around, pull the car back over to the other side of the street. I ended up fishtailing a little bit on the way up to the other side of the street, but we ended up catching up with the other car. So thank God nothing worse happened from that.
Well, and what got
awesome, all the sweating.
Well, and what was awesome about it was the fact that like before we even started driving, Bobby comes up to you and was like, "Hey, are you good driving?" and you're like, "Well, I've never done stunt work before." And he goes, "Yeah, I know, but I mean, the brakes work. Are you good? And
you feel comfortable doing it? You good?"
Yeah. Well, because I mean, you've done stunt work before, so
yeah. Stunt driving though, I had very little experience with. So,
but yeah, and I remember you looked over at me and you're like, "Are you comfortable doing this?" And I was like, "Man, I'm here for it. Let's get weird. Like, I'm good. I'm excited." But
yeah, I felt comfortable on my own, on my own accord. Like I was like, I do this in my own car. Like I'll test drive and I'll do like spin outs and stuff like that. So I have experience with my own personal car.
Yeah.
But to do it on a set, I very seldomly have done any stunt driving experience. So that was like my first shot at it.
Yeah.
Hopefully that doesn't give me too much shit, but
well, but and also what's great is that semi truck, it didn't have any logos on the side of it, if I remember correctly. So I'm really hoping that take makes it into the cut, because
I hope so too.
It looked like it was choreographed.
I mean, totally did. Like
it was perfect. And what was funny was that guy, he pulled over to the side thinking that we were pulling him over.
Yeah, that's right.
That's how real our car looked,
Right. Yeah. They thought we were actually like pulling him over and arresting him.
Yeah.
Which is the other funny part about it.
Like pulled over, he's like looking out, like grabbing his, yeah, dude, that was great.
But my adrenaline was so high after that take. I really truly hope that take makes the film, because that was gorgeous, man.
Yeah,
that was a fun scene to do.
And Lance, dude, that dude's a powerhouse, man. He was so fun to work with and just to watch work. You know what I mean? Like, you can always tell, like he's very, very into the details of it, and like just whatever, like for the shot, I'm gonna get that shot, and if you got to go back and do it again and again and again and again and again until you get the shot, then he's gonna do it. And that was awesome. I really enjoyed my time on there, and again, it was only a couple of days, but I was like, the whole time I was hyped. It was just a lot of fun, man. So kind of shifting gears a little bit, you also have a history with a wrestling career, right? Mm-hmm. So when did you start getting into that?
So originally when I was 16, I was I've always been a wrestling fan, but at that time I was more heavily involved in acting and modeling. And I did that a little bit, and I had a really bad experience with a talent agency where I got scammed out of a lot of money.
Mm.
And I kind of swore off of acting and modeling. And then I always kind of had this like, I always had this thing where I felt like entertainment was, I don't want to say what I was meant to do, but you know, you always have that like thing where you're like, I'm naturally good at this.
Yeah.
I want to pursue it. And entertainment was that for me. I always felt like I was good in some way, shape, or form when it came to entertainment. So um, naturally, the next evolution was pro wrestling.
Mm.
Kind of a shift, a huge tonal shift, but I figured being a Power Ranger wasn't a feasible option when I was younger. Pro wrestling was the next best thing. So so
Wait,
I got
wait,
into
which one did you want to be? Which one did you want to be?
White Ranger, dude. He had the coolest
Oh,
outfit.
dude, nobody ever says the White Ranger. That's awesome. Everybody always goes with the Red
Everybody's
Ranger.
They said the Red Ranger or the Green Ranger because of the flu and the Dragon Sword, but I think the
Yeah.
White Ranger had the coolest outfit.
Dude, the White Ranger
Absolutely,
was dope. Yeah.
dude. He was baller, man. I love that guy.
Tommy,
But
right? His name
Tommy,
was,
yeah,
yeah, because he was the Green Ranger and then he went to the White Ranger.
right,
Or was it
exactly.
vice
Yeah,
versa?
he got resurrected as the White
Yes.
Ranger.
Yes. Exactly. Yes. That's right.
But yeah, so no, I got into pro wrestling. I toured a little bit with a local wrestling company, helped them set up, learned a little bit of stuff in the ring, and then about I would say like about 8 to 9 months later, I took an actual pro wrestling course for about 12 weeks. Got officially trained there, and the rest is history.
That's awesome, dude. Um, Well, and I know, and I'd seen a post that you'd put up on Facebook about Brody Lee passing away.
Yeah.
And I don't know a whole lot about about the wrestling world and WWE and all that stuff, but I could tell that he had a big impact on the industry just
Oh
by
yeah.
all of the the prayers and good thoughts for the family. And um and I guess I'd looked up more on him because I mean whenever something like that happens, where somebody who's younger passes away just kind of out of nowhere, I always dive into it and kind of look into what who was this person, and what were they about and what happened. And I guess he had been battling some lung issues for a little while anyway. I guess he had like double lung failure, and initially they thought it was COVID, and I guess they had announced that it wasn't COVID. But I mean, he was a mountain of a man. Guy was like 6'5", and he was just huge.
Yeah, he's a big dude.
Yeah, but so what did that kind of, how did that affect you exactly?
Well, I had met Brody on a couple of different occasions. I don't want to say I was ever like we were close friends. We were not close friends, but every experience I've ever had with him was very pleasurable. He was just a genuinely nice guy. And sometimes that could be very few and far between in the wrestling business. You
Mm.
meet some huge egos, you meet some assholes in the business. I'm not saying everybody's like that, but I mean, it's the entertainment business.
Yeah.
You're gonna come across that, pretty consistently. And Brody, aka John, was just a very humble man. He was one of the good, we call in the wrestling business, we call him the good boys. He's
Mm.
one of the good boys. And it was just, I mean, my own personal experiences with them, like I used to have him like on Facebook and whatnot before he got signed, and he used to like every post, and we used to talk every so often. He was just nice to talk with. And then he got signed, and I got to see him a few years later when I did some extra work in WWE. He picked me to work over a move with them. I got to take he was going over like a new finisher, and he was, I think it was like the discus lariat at the time. And he pulled me into the ring. He asked me if I could help him with the finisher that he was working on, and I took a few bumps for him. Eventually, JBL came into the ring, who was
Mm.
super well known in the
Yeah.
wrestling industry. Got to take a lariat from him, which was his big move. He's super well known for that, which is a huge honor.
Yeah.
And then we got to work with Brody Lee some more over. He was known as Luke Harper in WWE, but got to work with him a little bit more on his own version of the lariat. So it's just really cool being a part of that experience where I got to work with an amazing talent, but then also learn from a legend at the same time. I got to work with that legend at the same time as as John, who was also really enjoying that experience. So it was just good to be able to be a part of that with him.
Yeah.
But just everything I knew about him, how great of a husband he was, how great of a father he was, and how close he was with his family. Just a genuinely nice person, and it hurts losing somebody like that when they made such an influence on not only the people that he worked with, but like just people that knew him or watched him.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys that like you just couldn't dislike at all.
Yeah, and it's it's good that you have those memories and you have those moments, because with people that are like that and that are kind of a light in the world, you know, when these types of things happen, it hits you harder, even though, like you said, you weren't great friends or whatever, but the fact that just those memories have stuck with you for so long, and
Right.
and affected you the way that they did, and just the few interactions that you had with him affected the way that you did, says a lot about him as a person and his
Right.
character. So I
Well,
mean,
he could have very easily treated me like I was a nobody. Like I've
yeah,
done WWE shows where I was literally just ignored or pushed aside and nobody gave a shit,
yeah,
They treat you like you're the lowest person on the totem pole, and John was never like that. He always treated you like you're one of his peers on the same equal level. Um, and I'll always like really cherish that about him, because he was down to earth and humble enough and just nice enough to understand that we're not better than anybody else.
yeah,
We're all on the same playing field. Some might have different experiences than others, but that doesn't make you better or bigger than anyone. So to be able
exactly.
to be around a guy that understood that was really comforting and really nice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, our thoughts and prayers go out to his family and, everybody that was close to him, and everything like that. So, yeah, man, lost another good one. But,
Unfortunately.
but now, there are some things that I want to ask you, in terms of your acting. Um, who were some of your biggest inspirations? Because I mean, actors, as actors, we take things from other actors, and
Oh, of course.
uh, you know,
Acting is stealing.
yeah, exactly, and
Don't let anybody tell you differently. It's stealing.
exactly. So who were some of your inspirations, or some people that you may have adopted a few of their techniques or what have you?
Okay, so I don't have one or two actors in particular. There's a lot of actors that I respect and that I've taken like little things from. Like for example, I think a very commonly brought up one is Johnny Depp, but I bring up the thing that I stole from Johnny Depp was his technique of really just figuring out how to build the character by combining one, two, or three different characters and forming them into one person, taking little things from each character or whatever, and then just forming one person out of it. Like I thought that was, to me, when I heard about his technique like that, that was brilliant. It helped me kind of figure out how to really build a persona behind somebody, like
Hmm.
take pieces here and there. I also like the fact that he was very um, no character was the same
Yeah,
with him, even though Johnny Depp had these like little technique and like these little things that he does and he brings to every single character. No two characters were the same. He always found a way to differentiate every single character from each other. That stood out to me a lot, and that was something that I try to do with all the characters that I build and I formulate. Um, let's see, other actors. I'm a huge fan of Tom Cruise. I think his work and stuff like Collateral and The Last Samurai were amazing. He's a very underrated actor, and not a lot of people give him the credit that he deserves.
yeah,
I think he's very very good. Um, let's see.
What did you think of Tom Cruise's
The
his
tirade.
his outburst that he had on set?
Yeah.
Yeah, what did you think of
Um,
that? I
do I
personally
think
didn't have a problem with it. That's just
I
me.
had okay, so I'm to me this is a very gray area question. Um, on one hand, I can totally understand why he did it, and
Hmm.
I could totally get, I guess, his frustration. Um, however, I think there's a time and a place to do that.
Yeah.
I think it could have been more professionally handled by himself, even though I understand how frustrated he probably was. I
Hmm.
mean, there's a lot of money on the line, a lot of it that he's ponying up himself. I totally get that frustration. But at the same time, you can't yell at people like they're children. And he was yelling at them like they were, you
Yeah.
know, two 10-year-olds that stole like something from his convenience store. Like you can't
Stole a stick
you
of
can't
gum.
treat adults like that.
Yeah.
If it were me in that position, I would have pulled them aside and I would have talked to them privately. I wouldn't have done that in front of a large set, especially, you know, two experienced professionals that are in
Yeah.
the same business as you. However, like I said, I do understand his frustration and I do understand, I guess, where he's coming from, especially as like a producer. Like if you're ever in a position where stuff could get compromised on set and I mean, especially with COVID now,
Yeah.
like, and you're running the chance of having like a dangerous situation. It can get very frustrating and whatnot for the producers. So I can see where he's coming from. I personally would have handled it differently.
Did you hear the whole recording?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I I respected the fact that because he did say that he had told them before, he had talked with them before, um, and I think you're right. He shouldn't have talked so down to them, um, and was like scolding them, but I respect where his intent was coming from,
Right.
because he was doing it, and the fact that he even said, he goes, look, he goes, I care about all of you. He goes, but if you can't work with me, you're gone. You know, if you can't help me out here, you're gone. That's it.
Well, on top of that, there's, you know, thousands of jobs that are on the line. If that production
Yeah.
gets shut down, nobody, you know, can make a living. And that's where I say, like, I understand where his frustration is coming from. Um, I think he could have handled it a little bit better, but
Yeah.
I do agree with all the points he was making. Like the points he was making were perfectly, I think, perfectly right, and I think he had every right to say them,
Yeah.
and to point them out. I just think handling it would have been a little bit more of a
Yeah.
better option.
Yeah. I agree with that. Um, so what is it about acting that keeps you moving? What keeps you inspired to do the next project and you know, the kind of get your motor running?
So to me, and just to kind of piggyback on, you know, what actors I use for inspiration, like I said, there's many, and I take a little bit from every single person of every movie, TV show, every project that I see. Um, but to what keeps me going is a couple of different things. I want to look back at my career and know that I didn't leave any stone unturned, and I
Mm.
want to know that like I did the absolute best that I could with every role that I was given. I want my career to stand out. I want people to, outside of myself, I want people to look back at my career and be like, he did the best that he could. He put out quality work. Like I want people to look back on that and be able to say that. But for me personally, I really just want to um, feel like I accomplished what I set out to do with my career, and in terms of just bringing a quality character to a role, making that character live, making them seem like a real human being, not just like, you know, this cartoon, but just somebody who you could see living right next to you or that you could meet. Like to me, that's the most important thing. Being able to bring a, a multi-dimensional character to life.
Yeah.
I want people to watch my projects, whether I'm acting or producing or directing or writing or whatever. I want them to watch those projects and start thinking about how certain situations, certain themes can attribute to their own life. I want them to think. I want people to come out of those projects and maybe process something that they've never processed before. I want people to me, film, like just like any form of entertainment, like music or whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
can change the world if it's made in a certain way, right?
Yeah.
If you ask questions that need to be asked, or if you bring up themes that need to be presented that are, not only current but revolutionary, if you can make people just understand things in a different light, I think that's where entertainment doesn't really get its due as much as it should.
Yeah.
And to be able to do that with my career, if I can get like one person to just think differently and maybe, kind of give them the light, so to speak,
Mhm.
just give them a different thought process going forward, that would be great. That's just something that I would love to be able to say that I did in my career, is I got at least one person to think differently.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Um, and then me personally, like, I have huge goals for my career. Like, I want to win an Academy Award. I don't want to just act and be like, that's it. Like, I
Yeah.
want to, I want to, accomplish some big things. I want to make this a successful career. I want to be able to make, a living off of it. I want to win an Academy Award. I want to be known as a really, like, a great actor. Like, I just want to be known as that. And that's something that I'm doing my best to work towards.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. It's one of those things where, um, along the same lines as you, like for me, something I always tell people if they ask me is, I want to be able to say at the end of my career, I want to be able to say that I worked with the best in the business and held my own. You know,
That's such a great goal. I love that.
I was able to go toe to toe with some of the best and the people that I've admired growing up or throughout my career, or work with some of the best directors that there are, and be able to say, yeah, I held my end of the bargain, um, and whatever comes with that comes with it. But for me, that's always been my big drive is, I look at some of the actors that I admire, and or the directors that I admire, and I watch their films and stuff, and I go, man, I would love to be able to be that guy right there who was in the scene with them, and didn't get lost in the scene because so and
Right.
so is there,
Right.
um I think there's something, to me, there's something very powerful about two really strong actors on screen together.
Oh yeah.
And
It's
and
magical. It's
and
absolutely magical.
neither of them are outdoing the other. It's like a game of tennis, just going back and forth. And so to me, like, and I think that's why I always like the Ocean's movies so much, like the Ocean's trilogy, because the level of talent in that cast and seeing them all on screen together, nobody drowns the other one out. You
Mm.
know what I mean?
They're
Uh,
building towards a cohesive, like, just a great film overall. They're not trying to outdo each other. They're just trying to build up,
yeah,
which is, I think, the most important part of being an actor, is this is all a collaboration.
yeah, yeah. And that
You
was
know,
something that I learned very early on because, and I kind of learned it the hard way was I had always had this thought of like, okay, well, I got to go in there and I got to kill the scene and I got to, show out and take it over. Right. I got to be the one to be like, damn, that guy gets it. Right. And you just look like an idiot. If you're trying to outdo everybody, trying to be like the quote unquote superstar on the in the scene, it kills the scene, and you end up ruining the movie when you do that over and over and over.
right.
And so that's something that I learned pretty early on, was that no, like if eh, your character's scene is written in a specific way for a reason,
Mhm.
you know and so you got to let it do it, or you have to let it play out the way it's supposed to be played out. um and like you said, it's a collaboration. And that's one thing I really like about film is, and film sets and everything, is that everybody wants you to do well. Everybody's rooting for you. They don't want you to do bad. You know
Of
what I mean?
course.
Because I grew up in the sports world, so the competition's very, that's at the heart of it. And
Right.
so for me, when I'm playing in a basketball game or something, I want to crush the other team. and I want to demoralize them, and make them, want to go home crying or whatever, because we played so well and there was just nothing they could do about it. That was the mindset I had growing up. And it's a very different mindset with film and acting and everything. You can't have that mindset. You have the mindset of, no, 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 like, yes, I want to do well, but I want my scene partner to do even better,
Oh yeah.
because we just set each other up.
If your scene partner does better than you, it elevates you to be on par and to work in collaboration with them. If you can use it a little bit competitively, but you can't do it in the sense of trying to outdo the other person. You're just trying to build to the best possible scene that you can build to.
Exactly.
So I think that to me, like if you were to ask like people that I work with, whenever they're doing like their close-ups, for example, or the shots on them, and I'm not on camera, I'm still giving them 100% of my performance. I'm still giving them all that I can. I'm still working up the tears if I need to.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to give them exactly what they need to get their role and their persona to where they need it to be in
Yeah.
that scene. And I think that's extremely important for all actors. And to me, nothing bothers me more when actors don't do that.
Yeah.
When they
I'm
just
right there with you.
I'm just gonna walk off. I'm gonna go to Crafty, and then like your scene partner is standing there like, fuck.
Well, and then the script
So
supervisor is just sitting there and be like, "Oh, please don't go." Like they're just reading it
right,
off like you can't get anything from that. You know what I mean?
no, you can't,
So
and it
yeah,
affects it. I don't want. You could say a professional actor won't let that affect their performance, but you got to understand that again, this is very seldomly are you in a scene by yourself talking to yourself.
yeah,
A
yeah,
lot of a lot of acting is reacting, and you can only truly react if the other person is there in that scene with you in that moment. you
yeah.
know so
So how does positivity or keeping a positive mindset, how does that affect your life and your career and your acting? How because I mean, in this business, it's full of rejection and it's full of,
oh yeah.
you have 100 auditions, 99 are no, and maybe one is yes, or it's always that kind of idea. So how does keeping positive and positivity, how does that affect your life, and how do you keep that going?
um well, I'd be remiss if I said that it wasn't hard early on. I didn't
Hmm.
understand um I didn't understand how to handle rejection very well, or not even knowing if I was rejected. That's one thing that a lot of actors have to deal with, is that we never know if we lost a role until we actually see the role on TV or on the screen, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So you just sometimes you just never get told. You never know. Nobody ever tells you anything. It was very hard for me to learn that early on, because I used to think, was it something that I did? Was it something that I didn't do? Was it the way I look? Was it this? Was it that? And the more you do that to yourself, the deeper into a hole that you get, and it's harder to get yourself out of it. And then once you start realizing you might have done every single thing perfect in that scene, it could have been the best audition of the day,
hmm
but you just look different than the character that they want you associated with. You might be too tall, you might be too short, you might be too buff, you might be too skinny, you might be, I mean, it might be this, it might be that. There's so many little things that can affect why somebody gets cast.
yeah,
And if you were to dwell on every single one of those little things, a lot of which are just outside of your control, as long as you go in there giving it the best shot that you can do, giving your all, not half-assing your performance, you can walk out of that room knowing that at least I did what I could.
yeah,
If you're to just dwell on the stuff that's outside of your control, you're going to put yourself into a hole. And I just didn't want to do that. And so what really helped me was just trying to understand that, a lot of the stuff is outside of my control. As long as I can put an impression in with that person that I was auditioning for, excuse me, as long as I can put an impression with the person that I was auditioning for to call me back into the room in the future, or to
hmm
have me in mind for another project, that's a win. I
yeah,
think that's what you should be shooting for, is to get into the room again. And then once you just start doing them enough, once you start auditioning, you can start working out your nerves that way too. I think a lot of where people get negative is that maybe they're not auditioning enough
Mm,
and they're not working on like scenes or monologues or stuff like that. There's always a way to stay busy. You just got to find a way to stay busy.
yeah.
There's always 1,000 different things that you can do. And I think a lot of where that negativity comes from is just not knowing what you should be doing. And I think uh, the best way to fix that is just try to keep yourself busy no matter what, whether it's writing your own stuff, acting in your own stuff, um, doing monologues, taking classes. Again, there's 1,000 different things.
Yeah.
Staying busy is probably the best way to get, to really stay positive in this business.
Well, and my cousin, he's in the industry as well, and he's done really well for himself. He's been around the block more than a few times. I mean, he's been doing it for a long time. He's out in LA, and he had told me, he said, for one, never wait on the business because it'll leave you hanging every time.
Yep.
He said, do your own stuff. But he also said, when you feel like you're not doing something, he said, really examine what you're doing. And he said, if you're writing a script, you're doing something. If you're studying films that you're watching, not just watching them, but you're really studying them, you're doing something. Just because you're not on a set doesn't mean you're not doing something. If you're constantly working on something to help better your career, help better your skill, try and help to master your craft, then you're doing something. And so focus on those little victories, and they'll add up, and they'll start to pay
Right.
off. Yeah, I mean, I think that's really, really true to what you said is, you know, being able to understand that going in, as long as you can make an impression for the next time, then you're good, you know? And it's interesting because it's a very interesting industry, is that I don't know too many of them that or too many industries where you go in for an interview understanding that you might not get it, but you might get called back in later for a different job,
Right.
you
This
know?
is the only industry where you'll interview 99 times out of 100 and get rejected for 99 of those interviews, but that one
Yeah,
interview could get you the job of your life. Like it's
exactly. It's
it
crazy.
the strangest business where
Yeah.
rejection is constant. So if you can't find a way to get outside of that hole of dwelling on whatever the issue was, then this business is not for you.
Yeah,
Like
for sure.
you,
For
you,
sure.
you have you have to stay positive. I mean, you have to stay looking forward.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been so many times where you think something's going to happen and then it doesn't, but to beat yourself up over it is where are you taking yourself to? What is that going to lead to?
Yeah.
I can't beat myself up. If I beat myself up, then it's not going to make me like I'm going to dread the next audition. I'm not going to want to keep going.
Exactly.
You just have to find the positives. Like even the small little things, like you said, small victories can really lead to a large victory. You just got to keep going.
Yep. All right, man. Well, hey, I have one last segment of the show. At the end of every show, I'm going to be doing this segment called "The Goods," and they're just quick questions that I'm just interested in what your answers are. Number one, what is your favorite movie of all time and why?
All right. Well, okay, so it's a tie. Um, when I was a kid, up until now, Jurassic Park.
Hmm.
That was the first film that really just ever made a huge impression on me and stayed with me to this day. Um, from the age of 10 onward, it was The Crow, and it
Hmm.
still is The Crow. So I can't let one beat out each other because The Crow helped me grow up. It helped me realize a whole lot of life lessons just by watching it. It helped make me passionate about being an actor. Like Brandon Lee's performance in that film was transcendent. It was such a great performance. And it stayed with me for a very, very, very long time. It still stays with me to this day. So it's hard for me to really decide between Jurassic Park and The Crow.
Hmm.
To me, they're very neck and neck.
All right. Well, I respect it. Those are two very good choices, so I respect it. Okay, so now what is your favorite part of the movie making process? having been on all sides of it,
Mm.
you know, what's your favorite part?
I would say that's a hard question. Okay, so again, it's gonna be another like equal thing. I
Okay.
can't choose one over the other. I love the creative process of building a backstory for a character. When
Mhm.
I'm going through a script and I'm really just trying to fine tune what makes this person work, like why do they act the way they do? Why do they respond the way they do? There's always a reason for every little detail in that character. Why are they always, for example, why are they always upset? Well, maybe this happened when they were younger based off of this information that I found in the script. So you almost have to become like a detective of the script to
Yeah.
really figure out what is making your character tick and work. And sometimes you go into a script thinking like, oh, this character is a certain way. And then like you come out of the script being like, I
Yeah.
completely had this whole thing figured out wrong. So like that whole process is really fun to me because you can really use just your imagination to explore who that character is. That's the pre-production process. The production process for me is just being in a scene that just completely works.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
feeling, that feeling is, you can't beat that feeling.
No, you
We
can't.
had, oh my God, on Crow, we had a few of those and it was, so it was magical. Like it
Yeah, dude.
was, I'm so glad it got to happen on Crow because I mean, it was just something that, I was putting together. But the fact that we had moments like that on the set where like after we're done, like we see people like who are visibly shaken up. They're like, it's silent. Like you could just see every single person in tune with what's going on. Like there's one moment on Crow where we finished the scene and I was still crying 10 minutes after we finished it.
Yeah.
I like those
That stuff doesn't
moments,
happen very often, man.
it does not happen very often at all. So those moments to me are like they're just they're the best. They're
Yeah.
magical. It to me tells me like you done good, kid.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
This is
You get that sense of like it. You've seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, right?
yeah, I love that movie.
You remember you remember the part where the little girl goes up to Leo after the scene and she goes, "That's the best acting I've ever seen." And it's turned into a gif or a meme or whatever. But afterward,
Right,
he's just like he cocks the gun. He's like, "I'm Rick fucking Dalton," you know, and he's like,
right.
"Yeah," you know, like there's that sense of like, you know, you get fired up for it and you're ready for the next one, you know.
It's the best feeling. As an actor, that's the best feeling. Not when
Yeah.
somebody compliments you, but that feeling after just a
The
great
feeling
scene.
after. Yep.
Oh,
Yep. Yep.
can't beat it.
It's you get that like that tingle almost of adrenaline. You don't know what to do with yourself, you know?
Right.
Yeah, it's that reaction, I guess, is what I was going for in that scene of you know, in Once Upon a Time is his reaction for that. It was like, yeah. Okay. So is there a type of role that you have not played yet, but you would it's your dream, like you would love to play?
Um, I would say dream role. Are we talking about like a character or just like the role type?
Role type.
Okay, so I would say like role type. I would love to. I'm a huge fan of dramatic acting, a huge fan, and even like some of the more subtle roles where it's nothing like it's not like the person's like in this huge predicament, but it's their responses towards the situation
Mm,
or towards like their life or somebody else's life where it kind of pushes them into a separate direction. Um, I'm trying to make sense of it. I'm trying to basically explain kind of like my thought process, but like my dream role would be have a character arc that takes me into 3 or 4 different directions, and it all just it all flows and makes sense. Like that is my dream role. Even if the person is an accountant at a law firm,
yeah.
like I don't care. I just want that type of role that has so many different little arcs to play with and to really bring that character into different directions.
Okay.
I love roles like that. Like one of my favorite movies ever is Closer, which is basically just 4 people talking the
Mm,
entire film, interweaving with each other. It's such a brilliantly acted movie though, and it's so fun to watch. It's so engaging, even though they're literally like, I would say like the majority of the film, like 90% of the film is just conversational.
Mm.
That's it. It's just conversation. They're just having conversations, but the conversations are so engaging and they reveal so much interesting detail and information about where the characters are at that given moment, where their character arcs are going at that given moment. It's just that would be my dream role, to be able to do something like that.
That's a very difficult thing to be able to do, is make a movie that is so dialogue heavy or so action heavy,
Mm-hmm.
be able to tell the story effectively. You know, it always amazes me, like movies like Dunkirk. It's kind of the opposite of what you're talking about, but there was very little dialogue in that movie.
Oh yeah.
But the fact that Chris Nolan was able to move the story along so well with such little dialogue and have it be engaging is amazing. So the fact that like Closer can have so much dialogue but not lose people, not, you know, and still be engaging and still make people want to see it out to the end.
Right.
That's a difficult thing to do.
Well,
Um,
the thing is, it's not even so much about like dialogue. Like, I think Dunkirk is a great example where, again, acting is reacting, whether
mhm.
it's, verbal or nonverbal. You're always reacting to whatever's happening in the scene. You can tell an amazing story, and watch silent films. I think that's like a perfect way to see how this can work in a film fashion. But you can tell an amazing story with no dialogue at all. Like
Yeah.
you could tell an amazing story just based off of reactions to what's happening in the scene. The story just has to take you into those directions. That's why the story is one of the more important things to figure out, because you need to figure out where thematically what you're trying to tell, and then character arc wise, what are these characters going through, and how do they come out of it? How do they change? How do they interpret that moment? And regardless if it's very very heavily verbal or nonverbal, to have that type of character arc in a film that has a very interesting story arc, I think it's an actor's dream to be a part of that.
Yeah, most definitely. Um, okay. So now, and I know you say you don't like to, you know, party, go out to bars or anything like that a whole lot, but do you have, and if so, what is it? Do you have a go-to drink of choice?
Coffee.
Coffee. Okay. All
I don't
right.
drink, actually. I don't drink any alcohol. I haven't for about 15 years now.
Okay. Wow, good for
Um,
you, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But I drink coffee like it is water. So if I were to go, my go-to drink is probably like it's honestly a macchiato of
Okay.
any sort.
Just an IV right in the arm,
Or a cold brew, man.
just like
Like a
right in the
cold brew,
morning.
not cold brew beer, cold brew coffee.
Cold brew coffee.
But
Okay.
that right into the
Just right in
veins.
the
Get me going.
just wake up in the morning, boom,
Wake me up
pop that
before
boy
you
in.
go. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. And then finally, what are some methods that you use to keep yourself centered?
I should meditate more than I do. So that's
Shouldn't
something
we
that I'll be
all?
work
We
that'll
all
be
should.
that'll be something I'm working on in 2021 personally. But to keep myself centered, I try to just realize that we're all the same in essence.
Mm,
We may have different backgrounds, we may have different experiences, but we're all just trying to do the same thing. We're all just trying to be happy, right? We're trying to
mhm.
find that one thing, or those couple of things that keep you happy in your life, whether it's a person or a career or if it's traveling. It doesn't matter what it is. You're just trying to find that. I think that's one thing that stands out to me that keeps me centered, is that we're all just trying to do the same thing. And the second thing that keeps me centered is knowing that if I help elevate somebody else, that will in return elevate me. I'm not trying to, like we were saying earlier, I'm not trying to, you know, overshadow somebody. I'm not trying to do better. I'm trying to bring that person up with me at the same time. If for some reason, say my career takes off and I get to, have the career that I want, I'm not just gonna keep it to myself. I'm not gonna keep that to me. I'm gonna try to elevate those who have been good to me in that journey along. right? I want to
Yeah.
bring, guys like you and Bobby and people that I've worked with that have treated me with the same type of respect, that have treated me good, and I want to be able to provide that towards the community and as a whole. Like I want everybody to come with me at the same time, and that would mean more to me than anything else to be able to say that like we all did this together, because we're all in essence in this together. We're all, again, like I said, just trying to do the same thing. We're all just trying to be happy.
Yeah.
And that keeps me centered. That keeps me humble. Like I'm never, I know that I don't have all the answers. I know that I'm not the best, but I also know that I'm not the worst. And I also know that I do have experiences in this life. And as long as I keep understanding that I don't know everything and that I can keep learning, like that keeps me grounded.
Well, beautifully said, my friend. Seriously. Yeah, that's great. And I just have to say, I really appreciate you being here for the very first episode. It is an honor to have you on, and I hope that you can come back, and once a lot of these projects come out and everything, I'd be more than happy to have you come on and do what we can to promote it and get as many people as we can to see it, and also just kind of see what you've been up to, as time goes on. So I'm always rooting for you, brother. And yeah, and thanks again for coming on, man.
I appreciate you having me on, and it means a lot to me that you wanted me to be your first guest on this podcast. I love talking shop, and I love just having conversations with people that I respect, and that I really enjoy being around and talking with. So so for you to want to have me on the show and just talk, man, like I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. All right, and that concludes the very first episode of The Good Life. Thank you to Justin Main for being here, and I also want to say thank you for being here, for listening, for watching, if you're watching on YouTube. And please tell your friends, share the podcast. Let's get this out there, right? I think we can all use some more positivity in our lives, and let's hit 2021 the right way. All right? Thank you.